So in today's video I have a bit of a problem, and the problem is my radiator inside there, which you may or may not be able to see, is a little bit broken, and by a little bit broken it's a bit of an understatement. The radiator is absolutely crumbling, falling apart, and I've got a show soon. I've got a hill climb specifically that I'm very excited for, but that radiator in there is not going to do. So I messaged the guys at Mishimoto, who got some great products from before, and they did me a solid, got me some next day delivery on this new radiator. I know the box is upside down. I'll show you the contents. They gave me a little pack as well. I'm super excited to get this in the car. Let's get started. So first things first, the rear engine lid comes open, the front comes open over there, and I need to grab some tools out the back. I really do need to sort the issue of this water on the car. Let me see. And oh my god, it goes everywhere. So now with the front of the car open and the rear bonnet back there, I can get to unboxing this and then get ready to start uncovering, just as we did before in the coolant bleeding video. Following the same process, hopefully I won't have to remove the front bumper, otherwise we're going to be here for a very long time. Got the toolkit ready, so let's start unboxing. Right, so I've got all the tools ready. I've got the coolant here, I've got a cheap funnel, some tubing, but let's break into the box. So one of the first things I got from Mishi was this little swag bag. I love when Mishi send these sorts of things out. Got a bunch of goodies, I've got some more stickers. These seem to be super high quality. I've got a little penguin air freshener. I've got a little drinks cover slash reservoir cover slash whatever I want to use this for. And I'm super happy. This air freshener smells honestly amazing. And to be honest, I think Lex is going to steal this one from me. I won't keep this long. And next is the radiator itself. I cannot wait to dive into this, get it open, have a look. It's very, very well packaged inside. Lots of card, lots of foam just to keep it nice and safe in there. And this thing weighs absolutely nothing. It is absolutely ridiculous about the quality of this product. So in a second we're going to go get it open, so bear with us. Oh my goodness. Oh, I'm going through the cardboard underneath. I cannot stress to you guys how light but effective this is going to be for the car. I'm so excited. I'm just going to cover over the serial number and not show that. And here we go. This is super exciting. I've been waiting sort of about a year or so to get one of these in. I was going to get one this Christmas just gone. But look at the quality, look at the welds on that, it's honestly insane. So the first step to getting the new radiator in is getting the old one out. So first you've got to remove this trim, which should just come away if you just peel it from the back. If you haven't removed it before, or you haven't removed it in a long time, it is pretty crusty to try and get off. As you can see, I may have run a hidden wire down there for the front plate. And then it's a bit of a wiggle job to get this out. Mine's actually coming out a lot easier than the last one did in the video that you can watch of us bleeding the coolant. But to be honest, we're going to go over that again in the installation of this radiator. To be fair, the top of the radiator doesn't look too bad. It's the bottom of the radiator, it's the underside that gets the real cake, or takes the cake if you will, on this. And gosh, this is all shot. And this is also covered in some sort of oil, so I'm trying to figure that out. So first we have to take these mounting bracket bolts off, get them out of the way, and I didn't think about this before, I'm going to have to take the hatch release off here and then have to realign it back, which is going to be a bit of a pain, but we'll show the whole process. Touching anything, any of the fans, any of the system, we're going to coat this all in WD-40 penetration oil, because trust me, I do not fancy any of these snapping on us today. So we're just going to give them a nice healthy coat in the stuff before we get started. So first with a little bit of struggle, but not much after that penetration oil has been on there. We're going to be taking off the front latch, or the boot latch, or whatever you want to call it, which I'm going to have to struggle a little bit to align later, but it's actually coming off nice and easy so far, which is really good. So it's just these two 12mm bolts on each side, and in a second I should be able to just use my hands to just get these off nice and easy. Next is to use an extension, I believe, just to get the angle on some of these bolts, because it is quite a tight space to get the full ratchet head in. I'm going to just take this slowly to try and get these off, because we don't want any mishaps. Crossed. So we had to resort in what most people don't like, most traditionalist mechanics don't like. Listen, you got to do what you got to do. Sometimes you got to use the forbidden tools. And then I'm just going to poke these in here just to keep them nice and safe. So now those brackets are removed. To be honest, the bushings are kind of toast. I might end up replacing these just because of how crusted up the brackets are, but for now, I'm just going to put them back next to their hardwares just so we can get them in nicely. So the next step is to remove one of the side fans, which this one seems to be quite crusted up. So I'm just going to take a look at the back clip. There's a push down here. Oh, that came out nice and easy actually. And then we're just going to push this harness out the way as much as we can with all of this assembly. Tuck it behind the pop-up, maybe behind this, just so we don't get it caught. And then it's going to be figuring out if we can do this without taking the bumper off or not. So now is for a bit that can get quite messy. So we've put a little tray to catch underneath any of the liquids, or hopefully all the liquids that come out, the old coolant. And then we're going to take both radiator hose pipings off with some pliers. So I'm just using some of this silicone spray to not damage any of the hoses, again WD-40, to just loosen up where these clamps are. So hopefully we can get them off without having to remove anything else. I might actually have to undo this fan bolt to get in to take that pipe off. So this clamp I've just wiggled back on this side. However, the other side is shrouded by the fan. So we'll do what we know best. That looks like a 10 mil, because it is a 10 mil. Wow. So that came off much easier than I think both of Lex and I anticipated. And it's just kind of hanging on. I'm not too sure how the fan actually sits on the radiator. At the bottom again. It might be bolted at the bottom. However, I think fine for now. Maybe we can get enough room just to get in and out. We'll see. With a little bit of struggle, we've just been able to push the fan back just enough, I think, to get the clamps off now, or at least to give us enough space if you let go, Lex. Yeah, because now I can at least get the driver in if we need to pull off any more. We're going to need some more silicone spray here just to get these rubber hoses off, because by gosh, they've been sat for a very long time.
Probably like, what, 20?
Well, it's 1996.
So 20.
And this rad has never been replaced.
Is that 30 years? 20 years? Nearly 30.
Yeah, it's a long time.
30 years.
It's a long time. I think I'm going to use that screwdriver again that we just used to pry these clips back, to very, very carefully, because we don't want to split any of this silicone hosing, just budge this off, which at the moment is not looking like it wants to budge. And in such a tight space, this might be a little bit of a pain for us to get off. Bear with us. So one side's got out, we just very carefully pried with the screwdriver back. So that's all sorted. Now we're moving on to the next side to repeat that process. Alright, let's see if we can. We're being very slow not to damage any of the pipe, because I haven't bought new piping for this car yet, because we're not really at that stage. This is more of doing this because the car's going to break down, not a look at my fancy new rad. After sustaining minor cuts and injuries, we've been able to get the other side off. And by gosh, has it been on there for 30 something years, and it wants to be on there for another 30 years apparently, or 20 years. So now we're having to contort the radiator out. Excuse this process, it's not an easy one to film. Nah.
No?
Nah, it's not coming.
Yeah, because it needs to go back over the mounts on the bottom, because it's stuck, so you need to go up and push back. Okay, yeah, hold it all the way up. There you go.
With some gentle persuasion, the old radiator is almost out through the top of the car. Is this the way you're supposed to do it? I don't know. We're certainly making a good job of it though. Can't get the radiator out the top, jack the car up and take it out the bottom. Which is probably how it was intended to be done, but
Yeah, that seems good. Yeah, there you go. The fan's coming now.
So we might have to remove the coolant pressure sensor, or the coolant temperature sensor. The sensor is now off, and we should just be able to wiggle this very, carefully, because we want to preserve the old radiator. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to jack it up some more.
I can slide out the bottom.
Yeah, very carefully. Yeah. And now I'll show you how bad the radiator actually was, and the reason we've had to replace for a new one. So this sensor I've just removed with a spanner. This is going to be our control, essentially, our temperature control unit or sensor, which is actually really gunked up, and I can definitely say that this rad needed changing ASAP. Before we put this old new not sensor in, we're going to give it a good clean, because we don't want any of this leaking, and also we don't want it covered in any gunk. So we're just going to remove the bung, and hopefully this should just go straight into those nice threads. Oh my goodness, that is going in so nicely. And then we're going to change back to the 19 mil and just tighten her on down. This has got to be pretty tight because you don't want any coolant to leak out of it, which we will obviously be testing as we go through. So now we're sadly putting the old fan back on until I have the funds to buy a new one. The gross old fan's going back on, sadly. I hate to see it, but we've got to do what we've got to do for now. So we've unfortunately, because my fan is so rusted and rotten, had to do some improvisation. So we've got the bolts in at the bottom, and we've had to use our good old friend zip tie just to hold the fan on enough, because it doesn't quite line up from where it's been damaged over time. Right, so I do have some mounts, these little bushes here, coming poly bushed. However, I wasn't able to get them quite in time. So we're just going to use these old ones, and then Lex and I are going to have some fun at some point replacing them. But as long as it gets through the show, that's all that counts. So I think we're going to go through the bottom side, come up, line them in, hopefully get it in without scratching too much, and then get these pipes back on, and then show you guys bleeding the system, but a very quick version because we've already got video on that. Now, I'm not going to show you my warranty code on the radiator, however, we were able to get it in. There's a couple of fins that might need straightening out, which kind of sucks, but it's nice and on there. And when the new bumper's on, you're going to see this, it's going to look great. For now, we've just got to get all of these tubes back on and then start the bleeding process. And yeah, ignore this little zip tie. I will sort that when I change the fans over. So now the radiator is in. These hoses were a bit of a pain. I've only got the one fan at the moment, again that will be upgraded later on, and we've plugged the fan in. Now onto the bleeding process, we have to remove this drag. So now we're going to take our bleeding pipes, one of them is going to go on here, which is your heater core, and the other one on the top of the new to bleed radiator. Then we're going to have to fill the car with coolant that we've just lost, bleed the system, and move on from there. Right, so as it starts to rain because of the great British weather, which it was raining on me just before, we've got to bleed the coolant. So the first coolant line goes into the heater core here, which I'm then going to open with that release valve. The other one goes in top of the bleeding area of the radiator. In our case, it's on the top. On the standard radiator, if you would have seen, or semi-standard radiators, there's usually some sort of bleed. So there's one there, and then there's a bleed valve on top of our other one there. Ignore this one being full of grass. This thing is toast. This thing is going straight in the scrapper after this. It's like a banjo. Right, so let's get on to bleeding the car. Oh, it's extremely low on coolant. We wonder why with the state of the radiator. However, this here is full of gunk, meaning I am burning through, or was burning through coolant, losing coolant. It's all milky, which is disgusting. But what we're going to do is we're going to fill the reservoir from here and the side panel with some new fluid, and then get to the bleeding process. To reiterate once again, this is a quick version on how to bleed the coolant. Not the full version, so I won't show you the full ins and outs. But funnel on here because we need to top up with coolant. This hose being held up, that one being held up. About to open the valve and then start the bleeding process. We'll show you when we're doing it midway through and then when we're finished. So now with the car turned on, heater's on high, feet and head blast at the minute it's cold. We're going to start the engine, make sure it's out of gear first. Out of gear, and then the car's going to run a bit funny, but we're going to bleed. Now the radiator's in, everything's bled, all the coolant's nice and warm. We've put the correct bung valve back on the top. This is going to spray a little bit out, but we're done with our hoses, which can be found inside of the vehicle just behind your panel. Now that that's all done, the heating feels warm on the inside, our rear cap's back on, and our coolant bottle is topped up. For this we didn't do a full coolant change, so we only got through 1 1/4 of the coolant. Ignore that it's Halfords. I genuinely don't mind that it's Halfords because this car needs a new water pump anyway. So for those who are going to say Halfords Warrior, leave it. So for the most part, the Mishi radiator is in and secured. As I said, I've got some new bushings for the bottom, which will stop this gap that you can see on each side, because the bushings I've got are kind of shot, and underneath you can see the Mishi. When the new bumper that we are doing up for the £20 to £600 bumper, it will open up a lot more and we will be able to see the Mishi logo massively. I won't bore you with putting the rest away, but thanks so much to Mishi for sending something to me, especially a radiator, so quickly with next day, knowing that I have a show and this is the only day that I have to essentially get the car ready for it, up for the hill climb at Cop Hill. So I'm super excited for that. Once again, thank you to Mishimoto. And yeah, I'm loving the look. Car's probably going to run great. We've only tested it a little bit, and I'll update on my social media with how that's going further.